red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose.
Like a light bulb.
Yeah, and if you ever
And
saw...
welcome to Footnotes, a behind-the-scenes look at what we value and why it matters here at Foothill Church in Glendora, California. My name is Ethan Bailey, one of your hosts. Joined as always by Erica Hussey.
Hey.
And special guest, Jessica Graham. Welcome,
Hi.
Jessica.
Thank you. Welcome.
So some of you may recognize Jess. She sings on stage on Sundays.
Yeah. Faithful
helps
worship
lead us
leader.
in worship, yes.
Sometimes. A lot of times.
A lot of times.
Also married to Ike Graham, mother of Gabe, Lyric, Tennyson, and Colette.
Good job, Ethan.
Wow, passed the test. Okay, what are their ages and birthdays?
Yes.
Gabe is one of my students in
Come on,
Foothill
it's coming
Students.
up. It's coming up real soon.
Yeah, his birthday is on December 25th. I know
December
that much.
25th, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good day in the hospital.
Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Are you saying that like
Totally
sincerely?
destroyed Christmas plans, but yes, but good day.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, let's just jump in. First question, Jess, why do you hate my t-shirt designs? What
So let's clarify. I did listen to that podcast, and I do remember that T-shirt. I did not like it. That is correct. However, I don't remember our conversation about the T-shirt. I don't remember telling you to your face.
Well, you
"Oh,
didn't
this
tell me to my
T-shirt's
face. It was
awful."
kind of like side to me. Like you're telling someone else and I was there.
Oh, okay. I apologize. I do stand by my opinion. It was not the best shirt. And I don't believe it was you that actually chose the all the colors for that shirt. So I don't blame you, Ethan.
Thank you.
I know who it is, and I definitely blame them, and they're gone. So
Good
doesn't even
riddance.
matter. But the other T-shirts, top drawer, man.
Yeah,
Very
I actually
nice.
don't agree with that either. But no. I will, Jess, in front of our church, I just want to say I forgive you.
Thank you.
I also forgave you then at the same time, but I think just in case,
Sorry, not sorry.
reconciliation is good. So, and I still
yes.
agree with you. Yeah.
Okay.
It was
We're
not-
friends
yeah,
again.
it
We're
was-
friends again, everyone.
not
I'm so
fun.
relieved.
So,
This is gonna be a good Christmas
Got that
season.
out of the way.
well, we are not. We did not bring Jess on to talk about t-shirts.
Phew.
Jess actually
That's a different episode.
Yeah, that's a whole other
Next
episode.
season.
Episode 78. No, Jess, actually, you are a professional Christmas caroler, as I would describe you.
You could say that. Yeah.
So what is it exactly that you do? Why do we call you a professional caroler?
Many years ago, I joined a caroling group. This was back in 2010, I think.
Wow.
And it's a group that gets hired to sing carols at private parties, corporate parties, shopping malls, Disneyland, just whoever wants carolers for the season. And so it's kind of like a month-long gig where you get contracted out to go sing. And I joined it a long time ago and have been doing it off and on, not every season, but I'm doing it this year, so it's a good gig.
Nice. And you said we were talking earlier. You said you have one like in a couple hours. You're gonna.
I do, yeah. After this, I'll go home and get ready and drive down to Disneyland today.
Awesome.
So,
What?
which my son this morning said, "Do you get to go on the rides?"
And you said, "Yep."
I sure do. All of them. They pay us to carol while we ride.
Last week I was over at Classic Coffee and
that
I was editing a video. And Christmas Carolers walked in, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of like, oh gosh, like
Dang
I
it.
need to edit this video. But then they started
outta
singing.
here.
They started singing. I'm like, it worked. I'm like,
Yeah.
they were spreading Christmas cheer.
Yeah,
It was pretty cool.
It is pretty fun. The audiences are fun to watch or the passerbys, because some of them are like, oh my goodness, don't look at me, don't sing to me, and they kind of wave
As if you're going to follow them.
right, which I think we should sometimes. And then others like stand there and start clapping and joining in, or they cry, they laugh, they like it's a fun mixture of people.
And it's fun because you're not just in there like, I mean, you dress up like the kind of
Yes.
part of old timey Christmas carolers.
Yes, we do both. This year, we usually do like the Dickens carolers with the big dresses and little hand warmers and funky little feather bird hats on your head. But then we also, like this year, we're in these jazz poppy sequiny dresses. So it just depends on what the client would like.
Okay.
Very cool.
That's cool.
What's the best place you've performed? I mean, Disneyland is probably up there.
Yeah, I mean, we go into Club 33 at Disneyland, and that's kind of fun because everybody wants to know what's it like up there. I never even knew it existed until I just got assigned to this gig, and I'm like, what's Club 33? You know, but that is fun because you do see a lot of celebrities come through. You sometimes make good tips there, which is fun. And it is just a cozy place to be up there. And with Mickey comes out and Santa comes out, and it's just exciting. And then you look down out the windows by the dining tables that you're singing at, and you can see all the people in the park walking past, and Fantasmic going off in the background. And so that's a fun place to be.
That's really cool.
Has there been like an awkward setting? There was just like, this is just weird. Like,
yeah. Well, a lot of times you go on gigs and you're like, I don't know why you guys have paid to have us here. Like, it's like they thought in their minds carolers would be good to have at this event, but then it's this crazy loud event and you're kind of stuffed in a corner somewhere. Nobody can even hear anything. And you're just kind of thinking, okay, whatever, I'm getting paid for this, but you can't hear us at all. It's
oh my gosh.
total waste of your money, but otherwise it's, it's still fun.
It's great.
Yeah. 2 questions, since you have a good catalog of Christmas music in your brain. Favorite Christmas album? Do you have one?
I do. It's not going to be anybody else's favorite, and I think it's more of a nostalgic thing for me. Stephen Curtis Chapman.
Okay.
1995. The Music of Christmas.
Nice.
Okay.
You should listen to it.
I will add it to my list.
And I mean, I feel like for kids, that's almost vintage these days, right? They
yeah,
might consider that. So
it's like Bing Crosby. It's like
totally. It's like when that album comes on, it's like the house feels like Christmas. And he redoes some of the carols and kind of does them in a good way. He's actually a really good musician. I don't know if you know a lot of his stuff. And then he does some more like Christian radio type Christmas songs that are fine, but they just kind of bring that back, that nostalgic feeling.
Yeah.
And I have converted one of my children to it being her favorite Christmas album as well.
Nice.
So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Lyric?
Lyric
Nice.
it is.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's on board with me.
That's great.
That's good.
Least favorite Christmas song?
Least favorite Christmas song. I do not like Blue Christmas.
Really?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
think
it is a little bit more sad.
it is. Yeah. And I like country music, but the sound of that one is, it just gets
Is
boring
it like
to
Elvis
me.
Presley? It's a little bit.
Yeah, I do like Elvis Presley, but
Love
I think honestly it's my caroling group that has contributed to my dislike of that song. I
Interesting.
don't like our arrangement of it. Whenever anybody wants to sing it, I'm like, because we have to take requests.
Yeah.
And if anybody calls that out, we're like, yes, we do that one. And you have to sit there and sing it. It lasts forever.
Okay.
It is kind of
It's a downer,
long
man.
song. Yeah.
It just really
It's a
is.
downer for sure, but also it's just a
Long
long
and
song.
slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, we're excited to have you on to talk about Christmas carols and kind of get into that a little bit more and why we sing those. So we'll do that. But first, hey, our very own Bryce Ronquillo actually has a message for you.
What's up, you guys? Bryce here. Ethan and Erica took off, so I guess I got to do the ad read. So here we go. We're in the middle of our Advent season here at Foothill Church, and I got to let you know about some important things. Our Christmas services will be happening. Christmas Eve services at 3 and 5 p.m. No service on Christmas Day, so you can enjoy that good quality family time, opening presents, eating dinner, whatever you guys do on Christmas. But the following week, join us on January 1st for one service at 10 a.m. Be a very special service as we're welcoming back our very own Pastor Chris for the first time in a couple months. But Merry Christmas, you guys, and a very Happy New Year.
Well, thanks, Bryce, for sharing with us about what Christmas has been like and what it will be like here at Foothill. We love this season, love the season of Advent, and so excited to continue the conversation about Christmas carols. Jess, obviously, we have heard you're very passionate about Christmas carols. You have been part of a caroling group for over 10 years. But what is it about Christmas carols, like about the songs themselves, that is so cool, that's so special, and maybe even that you would get really passionate about when you talk about them?
Yeah. Christmas carols are interesting because they are full-on gospel songs that for some reason all the world accepts and sings and even promotes. And they do it with their kids. Secular movies throw them in, books mention them. They're all over TV. They're all over Christmas parties playing in the background of corporations that don't support or believe these things at all.
Yeah.
So somehow they've like slipped under the radar for hundreds of years, and they're not attacked by agendas. They don't get canceled typically. So it's just a really interesting little tool that we still have in our arsenal to spread the gospel. I mean, they have a lot of these songs have like 3-4 verses that just speak about it, like confesses the sins of humanity, the need for a savior, that Jesus is the Son of God and the only way to heaven. And these people are just being like listening to them all the time, and they're even singing them sometimes. Yeah. So I just think that's a really interesting tool that we have still, and that floats around all this season. Just okay, it's just okayed by everybody.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm even reminded of just kind of scrolling through social media and seeing people who like, I know they have very specific agendas and are covering like "Oh Holy Night" and "A Little Town of Bethlehem," and it's like, do you even know the words you're singing like that? I mean, it was kind of jarring. So,
we were watching the newer cartoon Grinch movie a little while ago, and I think it was Gabe or Lyric that mentioned, you know, the song "God Rest You Merry Gentlemen" is in there, and if you hear the words of that song, it's talking about don't be dismayed. God is going to save you from your sins, and God is salvation, and God is perfect. And it's just, and they're just singing that through this children's movie that tons of kids will watch many times a year. Parents will listen to in the background and have no idea that what it's actually saying.
And what a powerful opportunity. Yeah. It's really cool. I mean, it's in our culture, right? And throughout the world. I mean, it's really cool just hearing that realization, honestly, that didn't even really click in my mind until you talked about it. But I mean, why is it then special? Like us as a church, as a global church, we've been singing a lot of these for years, hundreds of years. Yeah. And what's the significance of that?
So I think it's interesting that our Christian heritage is shown in these, the history of our faith. There's not a lot of big world religions that have songs from hundreds of years ago. Yeah. And so these songs were sung in the 1400s, 1500s, 600-700 years ago. And we have these carols that are being used to pass down truth. And that doesn't really actually belong to many other faiths. And I think the reason we would say that, why, is because ours is true, right? Yeah. But they're carried on through the church, through these people, and it kind of connects us with, pastors from 1400s, missionaries from way back then, workers just like us, students, kids. These songs are the exact same ones they were singing, and they sang it in church. They were often used to teach uneducated people about the gospel. Music was used for that. So a lot of these carols were written for that reason. And some of them weren't even written for Christmas, but then got kind of used at Christmas time a lot. They were originally just written to tell you about Jesus, people who cannot read or who don't get to go to school or are not educated in the church. So I just think these carols actually connect us with ancestors that we don't have any connection with otherwise, or any realized connection. And then, someday when we get in heaven, we will all know these songs. Maybe our brains will just know everything and we'll know all the songs, but we will definitely all know these songs. Somebody from the 1400s will be singing the same song I am. It's pretty cool.
And I love that, like, even on Sunday mornings, like, we really do sing a lot of, we go back to a lot of these old hymns and carols more than we would go to something that was released, this year. Which is really cool, even for someone who's maybe coming into the church for the first time. And like we talked about, is familiar with these carols because they've heard it in movies and in the culture.
They're comfortable with singing the lyrics. And if they sit down and think about them, then they might realize, wait, hold on. What am I singing? But straight off the bat, they're comfortable to come into our church and sing them. And then think about the angels that have been singing these for years. And I'm like, oh, yes, here comes another group still singing. It's a truth that just carries on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and even the, it can become very dull if we allow it. You've heard, oh, come Emmanuel, for years and years and years. And it can become white noise. But then to be able to, hear it in a fresh way, to allow, I think even like a couple Sundays ago, we sung that song. And there was even this, like, I think, kind of looking around and being like, wow, like there is such a great
that was a good
response to this song.
Yeah, they're so worshipful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people say that a lot, like, yes, Christmas carols can be worshipful. And it's like, yes, they can. We all really do know that. And when you think about why they can be worshipful, it's like, of course they're worshipful. They're telling the gospel story. They're telling, I need a savior. I'm so glad you've come. And, you know, Christmas carols tend to make people feel all cozy and warm. And I don't think it's just because of your nostalgic listening to them in your house by the tree or with the fire. That obviously contributes to it. But if the message in these carols was just empty or dark in some way,
or blue,
I wouldn't sit by my tree and go, oh, it's just so wonderful. I just love this song because I've listened to it for 20 years. No, I love them. They make me feel so cozy and warm inside because they have a message that is true and hopeful and filled with life.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Which is the message of Advent. Tidings of comfort and joy. Back to God rest you, Melody.
Good one.
Well, you know, we talked about the fact that these carols are, you know, some of them 700 years old, and there's really rich history behind all of these carols. And so we just want to take a moment, and each of us have prepared a little tidbit, a little
history
lesson on a carol that we just think is really cool. So I'll start us off, but then we're all going to go around and just share a little bit of history behind maybe carols that you've heard for a long time and are not familiar with the history. So I chose the song I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. And there's a great version by Frank Sinatra. My favorite version is from the Carpenters.
Oh, good group. Such a good group.
Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite albums.
The Christmas Waltz.
Yes.
I love that song.
So good. Well, and they have their album, this is a bit of a tangent. They have their album, A Christmas Portrait. And it's just beautiful to just listen to the album all the way through because the one song goes right into the other. And I feel like that's not common nowadays.
Oh.
But it's like you can't listen to that. Like if I hear that one of their songs just in a playlist, it drives me nuts because I know what song is going to come next.
And
anyway,
it doesn't come next.
If you're going to listen to the song, I highly recommend listening to the Carpenters version because she just does a beautiful version. But this song is really cool. It was actually originally a poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. He wrote this as a poem. He had suffered a lot of grief in his life. He lost his wife in a fire in their home in 1861. Couldn't even attend her funeral because of the severe burns that he had suffered. And just an interesting fact, like he's very known for his beard and like grew out that beard because of the severe burns that he suffered. And then 2 years later, he had got news kind of in the December season of his son who was brutally wounded during the Civil War. And was like went and traveled down to be with him, like got this kind of news, and it ended up kind of being misconstrued of he had gotten shot in the face. And so he's like, oh my gosh, like my eldest son fighting for his country and is now brutally wounded and during the Christmas season. And so Christmas Day, he's away from his other children. He's taking care of his son, and he hears the church bells ringing out and people singing peace on earth. And he had this moment of like, there's this joy and this peace that people are singing, and yet I'm so discomforted and grieved in my own heart. And so he wrote this poem kind of showing the dissonance of joy surrounding him while in turmoil within his own heart. And so just wanted to read a few of these lyrics because I just think like it's to a beautiful melody, and it was put to melody later on, but it starts off, I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And then a couple verses later it says, and in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. So throughout the poem, there's this idea of listening, which is really cool. But the really cool part is that the poem ends in hope. He was a man of very strong faith, and you have to be if you go through that much grief and pain in a short amount of time. And so he preaches to himself in the midst of this deep despair, and the song ends on this note. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men.
That's beautiful.
So it's
cool.
just this beautiful, picture of, yes, like sometimes the Christmas season just is really full of grief and despair and turmoil within our own hearts. And yet we have this hope, yet we have this peace. So 1872, John Baptiste Culkin put this to music, and it's just a beautiful song. I really love it. It's one of my favorites.
Wow.
That's super cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. Ethan, you want to share, and then we'll wrap it up with Jess?
Yeah, so I selected "Oh Holy Night," and actually, "Oh Holy Night" is in one of my, I guess I'd say, top 3 Christmas songs. That's like, I think, my Christian Christmas carol kind of category, if you will. So I actually knew nothing about the song, so it was really fun to dive into the history. So in 1843, in a small town in France, a parish priest enlisted the help of a local poet, Placide Capua, for the Christmas Mass. So Placide, he was actually a local, I said that, a local poet. But what he used the Gospel of Luke to inspire kind of this poem. And so, shared that poem. It was well received. Later, though, he enlisted the help of his Jewish friend Adolphe Adam to compose the music. And so I think that was a few years later. And so, accompany the poem. And then, I created the song Cantique de Noël as the original title, which I looked it up, translates to Christmas carols.
Nice.
So straight to the point there. But so the song became widely accepted and used for the, Christmas Mass in the Church of France. But unfortunately, Capua was later swayed by socialist propaganda and walked away from his faith. So the church in France condemned the work and the song due to this and no longer sung the song. But fast forward about 10 years later, 1855, an American gentleman by the name of John Dwight rewrote the song into English. He tweaked the melody a bit and the lyrics and turned Cantique de Noël into the Oh Holy Night we know and love today. And so here's the kicker. It was really cool. So in 1906, you guys remember 1906?
I do, yeah.
You remember how technology was not well advanced at the time?
It's a different time.
They had a lot more limited like wireless broadcast communication, so it was just Morse code. They had telephones back in the day, but that's all wired. And so on Christmas Eve of that year, in 1906, a Canadian inventor by the name of Reginald Fessenden, he was the first to broadcast his voice over the radio.
Wow. Singing.
Well, first, he in his broadcast, he actually read a portion of the Gospel of Luke.
Nice.
And so it's Christmas Eve.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And then with his violin played Oh Holy Night.
So cool.
Wow.
That's what's super cool. Oh Holy Night and Scripture were the first things broadcast on the radio.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, other than Morse code at the time. So,
That's really neat.
Yeah. So I think just kind of the cool takeaway of this is just that reminder, like, just like on that Holy Night, God used so many different people, and no matter where their lives were, whether they had a relationship with Him or not, to ultimately spread the gospel. And so He, even used a man that walked away from his faith, a Jewish man, a Canadian inventor, broadcasting on a radio to just get this song out there. And so it's just super cool. Back in 1906, that song was broadcasted. And then even just to this day, it's still, being broadcasted on, Spotify, Apple Music.
I bet it's one of
in churches.
A lot of people's favorite carols.
So that was like super cool to, come across that and just to see how God has used that song, just other ways just throughout history. So
yeah, that's really good. That's really good. It used to not be one of my most liked carols because I think it was just because it was overplayed or I felt like it was overdone or, a lot of times when like everybody loves it, you're kind of like, well, I don't. And, but now as I've grown up and sung the words more and more, it's like, of course we all love this one.
Yeah. It's like just a really awesome, powerful depiction of that night. That's what I love so much about it. It like paints a real, I think, picture of the feelings, the power, and everything. So
you know what's really funny is, as Ike and the worship department has been planning the Christmas Eve service. He's been going back and forth like, is it wrong? Like, is it feel sacrilegious to not do a holy night? And so right now I don't think it's in there, but I think
it's not. And I actually had meant to ask him about that. Like, are we not going to do that this year?
I feel like once this
set up a
comes,
meeting.
this episode comes out,
if we could do a poll,
we have to.
If you would like to hear,
if you would like to hear Oh Holy Night,
come on and cast
your vote. If you're okay with us going 5 minutes over in the Christmas Eve service, comment below. Write a letter to Ike Graham.
Fill out a connection card. And give your feedback.
And then if he doesn't, you can do like a complaint afterwards. We can do a complaint box.
We'll give you his home address.
No, we won't. Wait, what?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, my turn.
Yes.
Can I cheat and do 2 if I go really fast? Let me start with 1, and then it might end us on a dark note. Okay.
Let's go for it.
Okay, so this song is one that I had never heard before I joined this caroling group.
Okay.
It's called the Coventry Carol, and it was written in the 15th century, originally for a nativity play that was commonly done back then. It's a little bit of a dark carol. It's not one you're going to sing in church typically, or even when we are on our gigs and we're singing it, I'm thinking, this is so out of context. Why are we singing this? But nobody knows what it's talking about, so nobody thinks twice. It's actually a lullaby sung by mothers, typically, of their doomed children. It's telling the story of when King Herod ordered for all the little boys under the age of 2 in Bethlehem to be killed. And it's these mothers singing of their doomed children. And while that sounds horrible, what I have come to love about it, number one, it is really beautiful. The music is very beautiful. And when our quartet sings it, it's really crunchy and gorgeous. But what I love about it is that it just shows the darkness of the world that Jesus came into and why he came. The own king of the Jews. Not that Herod was of much Jewish lineage himself, but he did, at various times, if it was good for him politically, he would kind of pose like, yes, I'm Jew, and of course I'm awaiting the Messiah, because he's just getting the loyalty of his subjects. Right. But at the same time, he's clearly going for his own fame and gain and power, and that was what the world was going toward. And that's the darkness that Jesus came into, that the children would be massacred. I mean, how terrible. And that the small and the weak need rescue. And these mothers who cannot do anything about it need rescue. And so I've kind of come to really like the song because it addresses a part of Christmas that really just doesn't get talked about much. For good reason, maybe, but it is a really,
read that verse and move on.
But it's a beautiful carol. Like I said, 15th century, originally written for this nativity play, and then just got continued to get sing even when that play was off Broadway, was done. And then the other one, I'm going to keep going until you stop me, is Good Christian Men Rejoice. I don't know if you've ever heard that. Yes. It's just a kind of a bouncy, typical Christmas carol. It's written in the 14th century, so very long time ago. And it was written in that medieval tradition, like I talked about, that was where they used music to pass down truths and the gospel to people that were uneducated and peasants that didn't have access to things. And what I just love the words in this one, because we sing this in our group, and the people in my group, I don't know that maybe more than one of them are Christians, and we've got about 25 people, and the lives, the things I know that their life involves is so opposite of what this carol is singing, yet they sit there and sing this with me. And it says things like, good Christian men rejoice with your heart, your soul, your voice. So inwardly and outwardly, show it on the outside, tell it. And it keeps going to say, now you hear of endless bliss. Like what other joy is going to bring you endless bliss other than that you're saved? It says, you need not fear the grave. Christ was born to save. Christ was born to save. And it goes on for 3 or 4 verses, just singing the news of the gospel and why you now have no fear of your life, of your death, how your life is for something greater and bigger, and how he's done this for you. So that's a really good one as well. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to put these 4 songs in a list, and we'll put that in the show notes for you guys to enjoy. And hopefully one of these becomes your favorite Christmas Carol.
Christmas
and
carols are awesome.
They really
awesome.
are.
They're
I know
great.
people go, oh, I just get tired of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe they're not really listening. Maybe.
Yeah. They have such crazy, rich stories
Yeah.
behind them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Well, thank you, Jess, for joining
Yeah,
us
thank
and
you.
giving us a history lesson. I really enjoyed hearing even about Holy Night, and makes me want to sing it Christmas Eve.
Sure does.
So
So if you too want to sing that carol,
leave it in the comments. No. But just want to say to you, Foothill, thank you for tuning in this season. And we hope you have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you in the new year. And we'll also see you, hopefully, for one of our Christmas Eve services. And January 1st, where we'll be excited to see Pastor Chris back on stage and
One
in
service
person.
that day.
One service at 10 a.m. But we will see you in 2023. Merry Christmas, guys.
Wait, guys,
What?
It's
Snowing?
It's snowing.
It's snowing. Oh my gosh.
Southern
Wow.
California miracle.
It's a
This is
Christmas
so
miracle.
cool. It's snowing in the
Snow,
studio.
let it snow, let it snow. Oh, the weather outside is frightful. So delightful. Are we still going? We're done.
We can be done. Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.